Wisdom, Seeing the World as It Is, Lecture 14. Transience, dukkha, and not-self are interrelated marks of existence. The failure to apprehend that people are subject to impermanence and insubstantiality gives rise to dukkha. And the experience of dukkha reinforces our misapprehensions. By imputing permanent selfhood where there is none, we effectively believe ourselves to be individual entities whose fragile existence must be propped up by possessions, achievements, beliefs, and relationships. But that is an illusion. Paradoxically, when we awaken to reality, we discover that the only way to find happiness is to relinquish these feverish efforts to protect and empower the mistaken belief we call the self. The quest for happiness. Like Aristotle, Mencius, and a great many other thinkers, the Buddha taught that the quest for lasting happiness was a principal impulse of human activity. Aristotle said happiness was the one thing we seek for itself, and not as a means to something else. Whether we are aware of it or not, happiness is the true aim of all we do. The Buddha would have agreed. Neither the Buddha nor Aristotle, however, conceived of happiness in the way we are apt to think of these days, as a pleasurable experience. The Buddha understood happiness as an enduring reality that is not contingent on fleeting pleasures. This kind of contentment is what all beings truly want and seek. While he regarded the desire for happiness to be natural and wholesome, the Buddha did see serious problems with the ways we try to satisfy that yearning. Because we lack wisdom, because we fail to see the world as it is, we inevitably go about the pursuit of happiness in the very ways that sabotage its fulfillment. Without awakening to the true nature of reality, without insight into the three marks of existence, we seek contentment in the wrong places and through the wrong means. Because we can never find it, our thirst for satisfaction intensifies and worsens. Acquisition. Most of us seek happiness in two basic ways. The first is by acquisition, which is the preferred method in the modern world, and the second is by aversion, which is trying to avoid unpleasant situations. Both techniques are based on what Sigmund Freud called the pleasure principle, grasping for the things that we enjoy and evading the things we don't. The quest for contentment through acquisition usually leads us to try to enhance our lives by surrounding ourselves with things we believe give us pleasure. Homes, cars, clothing, trophies, and other commonly accepted markers of well-being and achievements. Acquisitiveness, however, need not focus on material items. One can seek happiness by having unique and interesting experiences, including spiritual experiences, or by holding the right religious or political beliefs, or by affiliating with an organization or a cause. If we fail to get what we want, of course, we usually suffer, because we have made the acquisition of a particular thing the condition for our contentment. Not getting it leaves us feeling sad, disappointed, frustrated, and perhaps angry, thinking we missed the very thing that would have made us happy. Life's two tragedies. A lot of our remembrance of the past is a reflection on the times we didn't get what we wanted. The first tragedy of life. Tragedy too appears when we actually get what we want. I read it again. Life's two tragedies. A lot of our remembrance of the past is a reflection on the times we didn't get what we wanted. The first tragedy of life. Tragedy too appears when we actually get what we want. Getting what we want may indeed bring us great pleasure, but the pleasure feelings won't last. When the initial pleasure subsides, disappointment sets in. Disappointment comes in exact proportion to how much happiness we expected our acquisition to provide. Desires, whether they are fulfilled or frustrated, only beget more desires. There is no end to our desires when we think that fulfilling our wishes is the way to happiness. Aversion. Alongside acquisition, we also seek satisfaction by avoiding unpleasant situations, things, and people. Aversion is actually just the opposite of acquisition. Both are manifestations of desire. As with acquisition, the problem with trying to find your happiness through avoidance is the nature of reality. Reality simply does not allow us to avoid unwanted experiences. We might be able to escape a few unwanted experiences, but the evasive life often comes at a cost. Even if we can successfully ward off some terrifying experiences, we cannot avoid them all, particularly the most unpleasant ones: sickness, old age, and death. Getting what we want may indeed bring us great pleasure, but the pleasurable feelings won't last. Three principal insights, dukkha. If our strategy has been to flee from unpleasant circumstances when they come to meet us, as they surely will, our suffering will be great indeed. These difficult situations are all encompassed by the Buddhist word dukkha, which denotes the fundamental frustrating, insatiable quality of our mindless existence, usually translated into English as suffering or dissatisfaction. The meaning of dukkha is actually far richer than a single English word, or even a cluster of English words can express. You might find it translated as illness, anguish, sorrow, unease, distress, unsettledness, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, and disappointment. Dukkha does not merely characterize episodes or aspects of existence. It does not simply suggest that life has a lot of sorrow and anguish, although it does mean that. Rather, the term dukkha indicates that sorrow and anguish, suffering and disappointment permeate existence. Dukkha is pervasive, subtle, and insidious, not merely episodic. like impermanence. There are no exceptions to dukkha in the conditioned world of life as we ordinarily know it. Dukkha names every aspect of experience in which there is the slightest twinge or possibility of anxiety, fear, or disappointment. In its full sense, dukkha is not a readily apparent fact of life, but a challenge for individuals to discover for themselves by means of introspection and observation. As with the facts of transience, the surface of dukkha can be grasped conceptually, but its depth can only be seen. Its depth can only be seen by insight. An exercise in dukkha. Schedule an appointment with disappointment. Determine to spend an entire day trying to be mindful of all your disappointments and frustrations, no matter how small. If you find this approach too demanding, take some time at the end of a day for reflection. As you prepare for the day or reflect back on it, consider the potential sources of routine disappointment. When you are on the road, how's the traffic? Does anyone say something to hurt your feelings? After you've tallied up your disappointing experiences, reflect on how you reacted to them. With continued observation and mindfulness practice, the reality of dukkha becomes clearer, and we begin to gain insight into its source and its cure. Eventually, we realize that dukkha is the result of wanting, the fact that the world does not always conform to our desires and expectations. The world is not to blame, of course. Reality just is what it is. The problem is with our desires and expectations. We simply expect too much from the world. Insight let us see that the whole approach to contentment through acquisition or aversion is fundamentally misguided. Rather than bringing the satisfaction we so deeply want, acquisition and aversion only serve to frustrate us and increase our anguish and disappointment. Instead of questioning these methods themselves, we foolishly think in our mindless state that we simply haven't acquired or averted the right thing or enough things. 3 principal insights, not self. The third mark of existence, and the most difficult to grasp, both by intellect and by insight, is not self, which is sometimes compared to insubstantiality. Not self is even difficult for those within the tradition to understand, yet it is central to the Buddhist worldview. By observing the radical depth of transience, we have already begun to make our acquaintance with the mark of not-self. Insight into impermanence reveals that nothing maintains sameness or identity over successive moments or exists independently of other realities. Consequently, the idea of a thing, an entity enduring through time and having its own separate existence, is potentially a misleading habit of the mind. Ultimately, there is no such thing as a thing. This idea sounds fine as long as we are considering trees and other items in the world. But when it's come to the human person, we become a bit more apprehensive. As we observed in the previous lecture, people want to exempt themselves somehow from the reality of impermanence, even against evidence to the contrary. One of the ways we try to make an exemption for ourselves is through the concept of the soul or a permanent self. Almost every religion and many philosophical worldviews posit an immortal soul or some version of an unchanging self in which the personality has a core identity that endures even if the body dies. Even some modern views in psychology maintains the existence of a true self that underlies so many false selves or masks of our personality. Not self is nothing more than a denial of the idea of an immortal soul or an enduring self. Simply means that human beings are not exempt from the quality of impermanence. Our every aspect is subject to change. Not self does not mean that human beings do not really exist or are unreal. We exist and are real, but we do not exist in the way we are accustomed to think. Problems arise when we reify the concept of the self, when we begin to think of the self as a real thing. If we take the concept of self as referring to something real and permanent, we mobilize the rest of our lives to accommodate it. On the basis of a self, we create all manner of self-centered desires, and on the basis of those desires, we and others suffer. That is dukkha. In view of the tendency of the idea of the self to cause damage, the mindfulness tradition, as well as other religions and philosophical traditions throughout the world, maintains that it is in our best interest and in the best interest of everyone to relinquish our attachment to self and to live without putting ourselves at the hub of the universe. No matter how wholesome it may be, relinquishing the idea of self may be the most difficult thing a person can do. We are so attached to this sense of self that we believe giving it up will mean our demise. However, many thinkers and traditions throughout history have suggested that this is precisely the way to lasting happiness. What we must realize, according to the Buddhist mindfulness tradition, is that all we are letting go of is a fiction, a fabrication of the mind that causes us to suffer. It is not our true identity. It is not who we really are. What we must realize, according to the Buddhist mindfulness tradition, is that all we are letting go is a fiction, a fabrication of the mind that causes us to suffer. It is not our true identity. It is not who we really are. We should also realize that letting go of the self or ego if you prefer, does not mean we are on a crusade to destroy it. If we simply refrain from acting as if it were real, itself, a thought like any other, will fall away of its own accord. Paradoxically, if we try to annihilate the self, we will only empower it. I want to read that again. Paradoxically, if we try to annihilate the self, we will only empower it. That's powerful. An exercise in not self. During a sitting meditation practice, spend some time reflecting on these questions. When I refer to myself, what exactly do I mean? When I use the word I, to what does that refer? Is there anything about me that endures or is permanent? If so, what is it? How do I know it's there? It's there. Is there anything about me that does not rely on something else for its existence? Important terms. Dukkha. A Buddhist term that basically means suffering, and that denotes the fundamental frustrating, insatiable quality of the mindless existence of human beings, not self. A term that is sometimes compared to insubstantiality. This is the third mark of existence that is central to the Buddhist worldview, and the most difficult to grasp, both by intellect and by insight, even for those within the tradition. Pleasure principle, a term introduced by Sigmund Freud, that describes the way in which people grasp for the things they enjoy and evade the things they don't. Questions to consider. Why is getting what we want so often unable to provide us with satisfaction? Do you agree that belief in a permanent substantial self leads to the experience of what the Buddha called dukkha? Why is getting what we want so often unable to provide us with satisfaction? I think we enjoy, as humans, my answer to that for right now, as I didn't really contemplate on it, we humans enjoy the pleasure of going after something. It's like a couple. Like we enjoy when we are being pursued, and in the period of that persuasion, we enjoy the utility that we gain from the person that we desire. But once you get it, once you start dating it, you still enjoy it in the initial phase, but slowly it's become a norm. Because I can give an example from my long-term relationship. Me and my ex-partner, we've been together for about 7 years, and prior to living together, we known each other for about, I would say, 3 years, yeah. And for that period of time, during those 3 years, we were in different countries. I was in my country, and he was in his own country. And we met through a friend of mine that I met, that I known face to face. But my friend, she forwarded his email to me and forwarded my email to him, because she thought that we will be very suitable couple. She told me that she knew someone who is single and who is a very handsome, very beautiful soul, and she told me that she considered me similar, very beautiful and very kind and very gentle soul, and she thought we are very suitable to each other. Like, we should meet and we should be friends and we should know each other. That's what she told me. And we started to talk. We met online. We started to talk through the emails first. We just sent emails to each other as a friend, that's it. And we didn't even know how we looked like. I didn't know how he looked like. He didn't know how I looked like. And we just sent email to each other. We talked like this for about, on and off, for about 2 years. And eventually we decided to send our pictures to each other. And oh god, we sent our pictures to each other, and I was so surprised seeing how beautiful person he is. Like, he is so beautiful man. I would have used the term handsome, but no, he's not handsome. He is beautiful. He's like more beautiful than most of the girls. And he thought that I was very cool and very beautiful. And he told me that he always loved short hair girls. And at that time I was short hair. Like, I was in short hair. And he was like, the moment he saw my picture, he fell in love with me. And the moment I saw his picture, I fell in love with him. With his hair, with his face, with everything. Like, his personality, his character, everything. He's being hard worker, like, he's being intelligent and kind and gentle. And we, like, the moment we saw each other's picture and everything, our love become even more, deep and more intense. Like, I desired him so much, he desired me so much during that period. After seeing each other's picture, I just wanted to be with him right away, and he wanted to be with me right away. And then after a year later, he came to my country, and we started to live together for a year together. And I was doing my master's degree in another city far away from my hometown, and we started to live together, and for a year. Then I come to his country, because the moment we started to live together, we were fully enjoying each other's company, enjoying the time that we were far away. Like we were really using our time to the utmost to enjoy each other, enjoy and fully enjoy each other. And after we started to live together for a year in my country, then I come to his country and we kept living together because our intention was to get married and be together forever. And of course we were young and we were naive and we were like full of love, and we were really crazy in love. And so we kept living like a married couple, and in the interim there happened some problems from my family side and his family side, but mostly from my family side. And then slowly started to happen so many problems due to my fears and my family, and so many problems. And in the interim, so all this, along with all these problems, the intensity of our love slowly become normal. Like it's no longer that intense. We love each other, truly love each other. We are so in love with each other. But the problems and being youthful and being young and being naive and not knowing how to deal with the life problems and family problems slowly kind of caused us to let the love fade away. And especially from my own side, I had to admit that, because he was fully owned his love, but I was full of fearful, and I was full of fear. I was like full of fear, coming from a very traditional family and very religious family, and living in another country and not knowing the language. In the initial period, so many fears, so many uncertainties, so many survival fears, and fears of not understanding anything what his family talks about, and everything. And slowly the love that we had for each other, maybe I wouldn't say the love. I still love him as a human, as a person, and I'm so grateful that I know him, I met him. God bless him. I always pray for him. Maybe not the love, but the life and the problems is just, and the thrill that we had in the beginning, it's no longer was there. And so it's just, we kind of let it fade away, let the life push us in different directions. Because in the meantime he was busy with his work and stuff, and I was busy my own stuff, my studies, and also my other problems. And also when you grow in different speeds, and when you slowly have different intentions and different wants and needs, life slowly take you to different directions. Unfortunately, this is the fact, this is the reality. So we get what we wanted. We wanted to be together. We wanted to be together. And And I was so suffering, not being with him, not being without him. I mean, not being with him, yeah, during the time that I was in my country. And he was like suffering in his country, not being able to with me, not knowing also when are we going to be able to be together. So we were like desiring each other so much. We were so full of passion, and we were full of intensity to be with together. And then it happened. Then we had the satisfaction. But that satisfaction, we kind of forgot that commitment means you're there for that person regardless of what happens. And being the young and naive and not so aware of the things about marriage, about commitment, about all those stuff, it kind of led us to go different directions. And I think we can actually, I mean, I see so many couples, like the intensity, fell away, like pass for them too, but still they remain committed to each other, although they no longer are as passionate maybe as in the initial phase, but they stay committed. I think sometimes you maybe need to find that pleasure, that the hollowness, the emptiness that you no longer have in your life. You need to channel it to other creative things, and so that you can still be in the relationship with the person that you are with and you are promised to be with in a committed relationship, and you can still be together with having satisfaction from different things. So it doesn't mean that after the huge intense passion is fade away and now you must leave. I don't agree with that. I mean, I always admire those elder couples who stay committed to each other, who keep being together regardless of whether they have the same passion or not. That is a huge, honorable, respect-worthy thing to recognize. So of course, getting what we want often in the beginning it gives us so much satisfaction, and it slowly along with the years, with the years pass by, it maybe no longer gives the same satisfaction, but we can channel the passion towards other things so that we can get satisfaction from different things. But that doesn't mean that we have to suffer. Life is a choice. Life is all about choices, and we can choose to not to suffer. I mean, there are terms, like there are things that in this book, which is mentioned, and I need to see which year the book was written. So the book was written in 2011. I mean, this book is written in the 2011, and maybe in that year and in the past years, suffering maybe was more romanticized. Like, people always romanticize suffering as though we must suffer in life. But I don't agree with that. I think life is a choice. Of course, what I agree is that maybe we no longer have the same satisfaction that we had, but we can keep choosing to bring that satisfaction. I mean, life is really all about choices. I don't know why I made this video too long, but yeah, there are certain things that I agree with the writer, but there are certain things that I think, yeah, I agree that what we get initially gives us like a satisfaction, and it slowly fades away, just like an ice cream. Like, in the initial ice cream that you eat, you have the highest utility, but the second ice cream, the third ice cream, the fifth and fourth, like sixth and the 10th ice cream, you no longer have the same satisfaction. Like, the first one always gives you the highest satisfaction, but you can it's your choice. Life is your choice. What you have is your choice. You can utilize what you have in a moderation way, in a moderate way, and you can still keep that satisfaction alive. So we don't really want too much intensity in something. We just want moderation in everything, balance, the middle path, the Christ path, the middle path all the time. Not too extreme, not too radicals, not too right or not too left, like not too right, not too left. Like, we want the middle path all the time. We want the moderation all the time. That's why Jesus and Buddha and all those wise beings, they always pursued the middle path.